Welcome to the 2020 Portland Film Festival presented by Comcast. This year's festival is jam-packed with movies, workshops, panels, and more. To find out more information about the films you'll be hearing about today or to buy tickets, just go online to pdxff.com. My name is Diane Morgan-Sylvain, and join me as we welcome our 2020 filmmakers to our panel today. Tonight we're focusing on our the female gaze. So we're ready for the directors. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So what I'll do, if you can just please all take a moment to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your film. Kayla, if you'll go ahead and start, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Kayla. I am a NYU graduate, and my music video is called Fucking Lonely. It's a music video that's in Mandarin and English, and it's a fun, quirky little thing. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Sophie, how about you?
Hi, my name is Sophie Somerville. I made a short called Peeps, which is screening in the Growing Pains section of the female gaze short films, and we filmed it in a shopping center, and it's about a bunch of teenage girls in high school in Australia having very complex emotional, political traumas with their best friend group. Yeah.
Great. Kate?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Ryan Brewer, and I directed and co-produced the feature documentary Knots, a Forced Marriage Story, which is about the truth about forced and child marriage in the United States, and it's told from the perspectives, the stories of 3 survivors.
Savannah?
Hi, I'm Savannah Kisslesson. I wrote and directed Apocalypse A Go-Go, which is my first feature film, and it is about 5 strangers who come together to throw an apocalypse party the night that the world is supposed to end due to a solar flare. And we shot it while I was in college, and it was a very collaborative film.
Christiana?
Hey, I'm Christiana Wu. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I'm the writer, director, and producer for the short film Alvin, which you can view in the Just After the Turn sci-fi block. It's about a man who receives free healthcare at the expense of his freedom.
Hi, my name is Virginia Brumvich, and I directed and co-wrote and also co-produced a feature film called Between Waves, and it's a sci-fi love thriller about a woman's pursuit to find her missing partner by crossing into a parallel plane.
I'm Ashley Maria. I'm the director of Pioneers in Skirts, which is a feature documentary on their website right now. And it follows my own story to understand the gender bias, the sexism that women are confronted with in their careers specifically. And we follow the stories of these young girls on a robotics team, and then a young mom who finds out she's pregnant while also up for a raise and is afraid to tell her boss. So the film is definitely, it investigates what's going on and then wants to tell us what to do. So what do we actually do to change this?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tessa Slovis, and my film is Pizza Party. It is a short narrative film that can be found in the Almost Found shorts block. And Pizza Party is a dramatic retelling, fictionalized retelling based on a real event that happened the night before the Larry Nassar trials began. And it basically asks the question of what would happen at a pizza party for sexual assault survivors.
Yeah, that was a very intense film. I was not expecting that with the title Pizza Party, but yeah, it was very intense. I'm familiar with the Larry Nassar case, and I love that you humanized. You took the numbers away and you gave the women names. I like that you humanized them. That was beautiful. So this is for all of you. How did your project come to be? What made you want to take this on? And let's go in the same order. Kayla, if you can start us off, please.
This project came to be. One of my classmates and dear friend Yi Tang brought me this song called Fucking Lonely, and I offered to make a music video, and she took me up on it. And from there, my friend Cheryl and I did a road trip, and the second part of our road trip, on our road trip, we made 2 films, and this was what came of our second half.
I wrote a lot of scripts. I was in my last year of film school at the University of Melbourne, and I was trying to write like coming of age kind of stuff about growing up. And while I was casting, I met a lot of different kids, and they all had so much of their own stories to tell about their experiences growing up. And so I kind of made the film, rather than using my own scripts, I sort of combined all of their personal stuff, and we sort of made the film that way. So yeah, and I wanted to shoot in a shopping center for some reason. I don't really know why I did.
Well, and I don't want to give anything away, but you've got the best narrator ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't say what it is.
Kate?
Well, my background is in filmmaking, but several years ago, I was working in Washington, D.C. at a nonprofit that addresses gender-based violence. And when I started working there, I didn't realize that forced and child marriage was still a huge issue in the United States, and that it's a very diverse issue that affects all sorts of backgrounds and communities. And so I kept getting these media requests from production companies that wanted to film a child getting married or being forced into a marriage because it would, quote, make for good reality TV. Mm-hmm. And I just got to the point where I felt kind of frustrated at how people really don't even know that it's going on. But then also, since it's such a nuanced issue, it's very hard to understand in just kind of like a soundbite or even one article. So I decided to leave my job, pour my life savings into a documentary, and really try to provide a platform for survivor voices to hopefully help raise awareness on this issue.
So Apocalypse happened when my final year at UNC School of the Arts, where I was still in school and working full time as well. And me and all of my friends who are the actors in the movie were kind of staring down the barrel of graduation and looking at what jobs could exist for us in the future and what our lives were going to look like. And it all seemed very bleak. No one really had any real kind of sense of hope. And so we kind of came together and had the idea of putting together this, like, taking all of the best memories that we had while things were still good and coming together and showing what our lives looked like while we were about to go down this very dark doom and gloom, transition of our lives. And so we came together, and in 3 days, we kind of sat down, figured out our characters, and shot the film.
Great.
So Alvin kind of came to be because I was at a point in my life where I had just kind of spent a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, kind of, getting interested in filmmaking, and then realizing that I had my own stories that I wanted to share based off of personal and previous past life experiences. So I would say that Alvin is kind of, the lead character is kind of a extension of myself. And it shows a person who kind of goes through life trying to live it and then gets kind of taken advantage of throughout that process. So lots of life experiences there, very cathartic. And I don't want to spoil it.
I've seen Alvin. I watched the film, so I'm really intrigued now because TJ did an excellent job of making Alvin very creepy. And the whole movie, when it ended, I was a little disturbed.
Yeah, yeah.
Virginia, how about you?
So the idea of doing this film, I've had for a while. It was probably over 10 years ago, and it was started off. My husband's family is from the Azores in Portugal, and and there was this idea of it's just the most beautiful place I know, and it was this idea that started about. It was originally a mermaid that was going to calling this character back, and it was her guilt and her not knowing what was reality and what was sanity. And then I got some funding to actually write the script, which was really cool, and very grateful for the Canada Arts Council here in Canada. And I got together with Catherine Andrews, who co-wrote the script with me, and very seriously for a year, we, beat it out and wrote it, went back and forth. And then a lot of very generous, awesome. I've been in the film industry for over 20 years, so I have just really good professionals that came aboard, a lot of goodwill. I had some funding, and made the film. It feels like a little miracle, because it was we shot it in Toronto and in the Azores, traveled with this our at our Art Arlenis, we were 13 people, crew and cast. We're bigger at some points, but yeah, it's totally a passion project, and I'm very proud of it.
Sounds epic.
It's epic.
Epic. All of you. So I guess mine's similar, where it was that passion project that I had to make. So Pioneers in Skirts, like I said, it follows my own story. And so it really just grabbed a camera, and started asking questions of what is going on in our culture today that is perpetuating these biases, these unfair perceptions, that is really preventing women from reaching their full potential. And I did this because I won all these amazing awards as a filmmaker, but I was just getting pats on the head. I was like, oh, you're trying. That's so nice. Directors Guild of America Award. Oh, you're so sweet for trying. That kind of mentality was making me go, wait, what exactly is this career going to look like? If my short film over here winning all these awards is only getting people, semi-interested in just knowing what I want to do next. It's like nobody was hiring me. So Pioneers in Skirts just became this odyssey I had to go on of what am I supposed to do? How are we supposed to just maneuver this world? And luckily, my mom, who is marketing strategist, she jumped onto the team, and she and I kind of just went out into the world, and now she's a full-blown filmmaker. So so Pioneers in Skirts, it's like my story up on the screen, and it's everything,
Yeah. So I'm actually a first-time filmmaker. Pizza Party is the first screenplay I've ever written. Wow. I come from an acting background. So I was actually in my final semester of my third year of my MFA program at USC, and we had a directing filmmaking for actors class. And I'm a sexual assault survivor, a college sexual assault survivor. So I'm very passionate about Title IX, and I was incredibly focused on the Larry Nassar trials when they happened. I felt very connected to the trials. And it was kind of this perfect apex of moments. So I was listening to the podcast by Michigan Radio, NPR, Believed, which is an amazing podcast by two female journalists talking about the psychology of belief around the Nassar trials and how Nassar was able to, perform these insidious, horrible acts with parents present, and the systems of believing women, believing girls, in tandem with this class. And it kind of fit perfectly. And the assignment was a 10-page script or under, one location. And that's what I came up with. And my teacher, Jean Gallerano, who ended up helping me produce the film and starred in the film as well, came up to me after class and said, no, you're not making this in school. We're making this in real life, and also, by the way, you're a director, in case you didn't know. And it's true. I mean, it was the thing that launched me into now, after the last year, really pursuing that as my life. So
That's great. That's very cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, as women directors, why is it important that your voice gets heard? And anybody jump in. I'll make you all answer that if you don't want to.
I'm right now experiencing something where I am directing some feature films that I'm getting hired on, I think my notes that come, because I'm looking at these, like, it's the romantic comedies and they are very formulaic, but I don't even think that sometimes people that are reading them aren't even looking at it through an eye where there's like a cliche of what the females do and how they're represented. And it's not, so when I was studying stuff in school and I was studying gender politics and all this stuff, and I'd be like, these bad guys, right? Like, they're writing all this stuff, and like, it's actually, everyone's really cool and everyone's wanting to tell a good story, and everyone's not even realizing the bias that keeps on, or like the cliches and the things that keep on getting reiterated. I think just like get repeated in society because we watch it, then we consume it, we show it. So like it's, I think like I feel it's like my responsibility as I'm now making things to that, and all your stories, like they're very, their story, like it's cool to hear all these stories that you guys are telling, because I don't, they're different from the male stories, and they have, they're not, a lot of them aren't heard. So it's really cool. I think it's important, very important. And it's a different perspective, same way that, we need to hear different stories from, all kinds of different people that are, it's different experiences. And that's the only way we're going to like have a more inclusive society. That's okay. Sorry, I spoke a lot.
No, that's perfect.
For me, it's I saw Wonder Woman for the first time when it came out in theaters, and I cried. I never grew up with a female superhero other than Power Rangers, And so, I mean, I don't know how old, mid-20s when I saw that, and I was just like, this is so overdue. And same with Captain Marvel and Harriet. I mean, and not only women, but people of color too. Like, representation is huge in this industry, and it's really important that us lady filmmakers step up, and trans filmmakers, and queer filmmakers, and filmmakers of all backgrounds and walks of life.
I think just like a sidebar to answer the question in the context of also, because many of the women here have made films about sexual assault or sexual violence and the female body. And I think that there's a certain level of tenderness that goes into that process when you've been through it as a director. There's a certain level of care that goes into that process. And just a tiny example, and I'm not sure if it answers your question fully, but I think it's a good one to point out. When I was editing the film, there were two different endings, right? And there was one ending where everything was tied up in a neat little bow, and one ending where there wasn't. And everyone that watched it was watching the cuts. All the men loved the ending that was tied up in the neat little bow. And all of the women were like, no, you got to end it like this. You got to end it like this. And I realized, I was like, oh, that's because it's for them, and that was a really interesting thing to receive. And to see what that kind of what the male gaze on our experience, what they want our stories to be, and whether, with no malintention, but the expectation of what those stories are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And I just think that that's a really, really important thing about having, women having a seat at the table, especially in filmmaking, feature filmmaking, outside of television, making movies, because only 4% of filmmakers are women, and we make up 53% of the population.
I think everyone has been making incredibly potent and excellent points. And just to build on that, I think sometimes there's an empathy gap when we are watching something on screen and we can tell it's a two-dimensional character, or it's a character that only exists for furthering the plot of one character, whether that's as a best friend or as a sex object or as, you know, a manic pixie dream girl or whatever the case may be. Like there's a certain part of it that feels subtly dehumanizing. And whether people even realize that's happening or not, like, I think there's an internalization of all of that within our society. So the more diversity, the more representation that we have, like, the more we can work to try to close that empathy gap.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all fantastic stuff. I'm glad you brought up the 4%, Tessa, because I was waiting for Ashley to chime in, and Ashley has a lot of great information about that in Pioneers in Skirts.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you said it, because it's just the fact that we are so ingrained in our system because of the media that we watch. 4% of it is being told through female eyes, even less of that as women of color. And then there's so much forgiving we have to give ourselves because we've been trained for so long by, you know, like Kate was saying, all these different types of stereotype women. It's like we have to go, okay, no more. Now let's start telling some stories. Like I'm getting back into horror. I'm like, I want to tell a horror film. And oh, by the way, through the lens of someone who is everything, that is a full person. You know?
Great. So how have you seen your films or your projects resonate with audiences?
I can
go ahead, Ashley.
I'll continue through. So it's really cool showing Pioneers in Skirts to all kinds of audiences, because every single person comes to the table with their own experiences of their own careers. Maybe they're starting out, maybe they've been in their career 30, 40 years. I mean, all of us have dealt with this, women and men. Men actually are really interested in knowing what to do. They're realizing there's an issue. You know, we say their journey starts somewhere. Sometimes it starts when they watch the movie, and sometimes it starts when they become a dad. But they want to know, what am I supposed to do to actually change the tide? Because I don't want this to happen continuously over and over again. So we've loved screening the film and then test screenings, you know, just to kind of see what our audience is really reacting to.
Anyone else want to chime in?
I mean, people just laugh at mine. Oops, sorry. I'm going to be quick. People just laugh. Mine's kind of sexual and funny, and but also resonates with an emotion that I think a lot of us feel at one point or another. So people just kind of find it entertaining.
Oh yeah. When I was in kind of pre-production and during production and working with the cast and crew, the talent and the crew, it was really interesting talking to several members, because they would feel like they were really resonating with the character, whether the character was, you know, the fact that the character was a reclusive network engineer who stays at home and watches TV and plays video games and has an addiction. You know, like there were different avenues or different aspects of, depending on who that person was, that really could relate to that main character. And then as they were watching that character, you know, in this very dense, like 15 minutes of film, travel through their journey, it was like you saw a lot of like highs and lows through that entire journey.
I think one of the most interesting things about sharing Knots has been that the more we're able to share it, the more I am approached by people who come up and say, this happened to me, or they send me a message and say I was also forced into a marriage, or it's a lot more widespread than I think any of us even realize. So I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is that it's not just resonating with people and people want to make a change, but that it's resonating with survivors themselves.
I was surprised at the diverse communities that the three women came from. I think that a lot of us probably have a stereotype in mind when we think of the forced child marriage, and to hear that one of the women was from New Jersey and didn't, and was a part of a community there, that was very surprising for me.
Yeah, it's a very diverse issue, and really the data we have on it is relatively limited. It's only just the very tip of the iceberg in terms of what's actually going on. So anecdotally, and in terms of the people who are actually really working on the front lines every day to change it, it affects primarily women and girls from all different backgrounds, socioeconomic levels, religions. It's just very, unfortunately, relatively common.
Yeah. Anyone else want to tell us how audiences have responded?
I was surprised that mine like found an audience at all, like at first, because the whole film was kind of an experiment. I really didn't know if it was going to even work. Like in the edit, I was like 3 days left, and I was like, I don't even know if this is going to cut together and make sense. And so, yeah, it was really encouraging that like these girls' stories and the way that the film is delivered, because it's kind of unusual. It was really encouraging that it was able to find audiences on the other side of the world. Yeah, it was really cool. It gave me a lot of confidence. It's sort of like, I think film is such an empathetic tool. I think if you show people being genuine and being honest, you can sort of captivate people who have nothing to do with what the film is about. Or I'm kind of testing that.
Well, I think we all knew at some point in our life each of those girls. Your characters are definitely very relatable. So can you share challenge or like a special memory that happened? Do you have a great moment on set or a challenge that you can share with us? Go ahead. Ashley.
Oh, I heard someone say,
Oh, I thought that was you.
No, you go ahead. Sorry, I said because I was thinking.
Well, who else was
you should say.
Maybe they're only running camera and sound and doing the interview. Anyone else doing that? So the biggest challenge is once you have your film and you're ready to go. I mean, there were so many times I was out there just by myself doing these interviews. And sometimes that gave us more access because they go, what? Well, you're just you, even got us into a White House summit on working families. So I got to just roam around. Nobody stopped me. But the hard part was my tripod was not strong enough for the camera once, and it totally face planted the camera into the ground. Don't worry, it was okay. But that was the day we said, okay, we have to spend some money and get a nicer tripod. But luckily, as we made the film and time went on, you kind of like barter, you get more people involved, you get a little more money, and then we started getting a lot more crew, people who were starting to understand what the movie was, what we were doing. So we got a lot better. But that one day when the camera smashed on the ground, it was fine. It ended up being fine, but it was dramatic, very dramatic.
I can imagine. Sophie, were you starting to say something?
Yeah, my whole shoot was challenging because we were shooting in a shopping center that was like, it was people moving around the whole time. So it was sort of like a half documentary, half fiction film kind of hybrid experiment. And the challenging thing was trying to shoot in a way that people don't look directly into the camera all the time, because you'd have people walking past and they would just be like, what's going on? So we had so many takes that we had to throw away because kids would like run up to the camera like dancing and doing insane stuff. But the amazing thing is that you can, like I was told by people at film school, like, this is not going to work. It's like insane. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I just want to try anyway. And the amazing thing was that even though it had all those problems, we were able to cut around it and just be really persistent to a point where the film was able to be made. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to echo Ashley as far as doing everything yourself and how stressful that can be. I was the director and actor, the production designer, the costume designer, and kind of the first AD, and running sound some days while we were doing all of this. So there were times where I was holding like, you know, a little like rig that had a plane on it while also holding a boom that had the mic on the end of it, while also having to watch the performance from an actor. And that could be incredibly stressful. And you realize, like, as you're going along, like, oh my God, like, why did I put myself into this position? But yeah, I mean, like, in a lot of ways, you get so much, there's a lot of control you get by being the main person who's sort of in charge of everything as it's happening. And you really get to guide the story without a bunch of voices in the room. And you can really get to focus in on what it is that you're trying to say. And a lot of the noise kind of falls away, because you realize, like, at that moment, like, I have to get the plane here, the actor has to do this here. And it's incredibly challenging, but being in the position to take on all of those roles was also one of the most rewarding things that I could have done at the time.
Christiana?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Wanted to say that, yeah, definitely. Like for Alvin, I was the producer and the director for it, and I felt like I spent a lot of time handling a lot of the production management side. And so when I was on set, I felt like I was juggling so many different things. And you have maybe, for this particular set, there were about 25 people to 30 people on set on each day. And then so it was like, you have all these people coming at you asking questions, you know, like whether they're simple yes or no questions or whether it requires a more detailed response. But I felt like I was kind of like hitting that line or that balance of like, oh my gosh, don't, you know, stay afloat, you know. But it all kind of came together in one great moment. I think it was on the last day, and we were finishing up our special effects scenes, and there was one particular shot where Alvin came around the corner. And, you know, you couldn't see that there was like totally a video village, like right there, just hiding. You know, you had like 10 people, 15 people there. They're all watching with like their cameras in front of the monitor too. And that whole shot, just that, it was almost like it was in slow-mo, but it wasn't in slow-mo. And it gave us goosebumps when we watched it. And that was when it just like all culminated together. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, you know, it was a good feeling.
Tessa?
I mean, physically, we shot ours it was a 2-day shoot in July in a church choir room with no air conditioning. So that was certainly a challenge with so many bodies. I mean, we had about 20 background actors, and then we had our crew, which, you know, we had a sizable crew. They're about and everyone was there, you know, everyone was called all day. So we had about 45 people, you know, in the room with no AC for 2 days, trying to navigate around. There's a lot of movement at the very beginning. It's a party, so navigating around that was definitely a challenge. But I will say that I am told that this doesn't happen often, but it was probably I got really lucky. It was the most amazing spiritual connected experience. Everyone was just, because everyone had a connection to the story. Either someone knew someone that had, you know, a survivorship story or moment, or are, you know, actors or filmmakers. You know, so many of them were survivors themselves. So there was such a beautiful spirituality and connection in that space, and everyone was really kind to each other. We really set the precedent at the very beginning. The first thing I said to everyone was, you know, instead of "I don't know what I'm doing," it was, if you feel triggered, if you need to stop, we will stop. I don't care if we haven't made the shot. I don't care if we're not good on time. We will stop. And I will say the last shot, last day, I don't want to spoil it, but we have a little magic realism moment with the child, and that was the last thing that we shot. And, you know, just her and the camera and me, and everyone was out of the room. And it was pretty darn cool. And a lot of stuff came up also within my own personal life in that moment of, like, you know, the inner child and this beautiful discovery of, wow, like, there's innocence and there's beauty and you know, looking at the younger generation. So, yeah.
Kate, how about you? Any challenges? Any memorable? I mean, you have to have memorable moments.
Yeah, there were a number of challenges. I think just being low to no budget for the most part was probably one of the biggest ones. But I have an amazing, small but very dedicated crew of people who were just on board from the get-go to make sure that this happened. And especially once we started filming survivor interviews and really got to know them, you know, we really felt like even when things got really tough, like, we owed it to them because they trusted us with their stories. So we have to make sure we finish, and we have to make sure it's good. And we talked about agency a lot in that too, because it's not really my film, it's their film, it's their stories. So I wanted to make sure that they had that sense of agency throughout the process. I think one of the happier moments, at least, or like memories, I guess, is after we got done filming with one of the survivors in Michigan, Nina. She invited us out to hang out with her and some of her friends at this dance party thing that was going on, obviously well before COVID. And I literally had a dirty t-shirt that I'd been wearing for like 2 or 3 days and a pair of jeans. And I was like, okay, I don't really have anything to wear. And she just went in her closet and pulled out a dress and she like gave it to me. She's like, here, wear this and let's go to the party. You know? So that was just kind of, I don't know. It's a heavy documentary, but I feel like we were really focused on making sure that you get to know these women as whole people too. And I think that was just a really fun moment in the midst of the whole process of filming.
How did you find Sarah, Nina, and Frady?
So the organization that I used to work for, the Tahari Justice Center, they had already begun to identify certain survivors who were interested in becoming advocates and who had started to advocate on the issue and share their stories in some capacity. And also Frady runs an organization called Unchained at Last, which is dedicated to forced and child marriage in the United States. And so working between the two of them, we actually interviewed a number of women on the phone who, without recording anything, just to kind of talk through what it would mean to share their stories if they wanted to be involved and that whole process. Because I definitely wanted to make sure that they understood like this potentially could go out wide. So it's not something you can then sort of put back in the box once it's out there. So from probably about 6 different phone interviews, we ended up deciding on the three, Nina, Sarah, and Frady, based on where they were at in their own journey of advocacy, and they were totally on board.
Great. How about you, Kayla? Any challenges?
Yeah, well, to echo all you ladies, I mean, low budget, writer, director, producer, everything, driver. On top of that, it's in a language that I don't know. So there were a lot of challenges. I'm trying to think of one specifically. I think for us, it was timing. We were meeting in the Bonneville Salt Flats with our cinematographer and other actress dancer, and just kind of getting the timing from that to where we met up at the same place at the same time, because Utah is a very expansive state and beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And how about you, Virginia?
I think it's echoed in a lot of people here. It's like it's like you have to have just like this sheer will and power to power through it. And we were, I don't know, like on a rock cliff overlooking the ocean with the rain sideways, and I was thinking, what am I doing bringing everybody out here? We filmed in the ocean. We filmed underwater stuff, which was crazy because we had no budget. So we're like, what are we going to do? And my producer, Alex, who actually took over the whole shooting while we were, and said, you direct. So that was awesome because I concentrated on directing. He was like, oh, like, we're going to put the DP on a ladder and get him a snorkel. And he went in the pool, and it could have been like a tank, which would have cost like $40,000 with all this stuff. He just like literally had the underwater camera with the people, the actors would go by him and do things, and then we just cut it together. I don't know, it's filming is like such a fun thrill because you get to have something in your head, and then you get to make it, and you tell a story with it. And then when you're directing, people like buy into this story, and then they come with you on this journey, and then you're like, okay, so now, I got to make this thing happen. And everyone has pieces, but you're the one that has this vision of what it's going to come through. And when it's the best is when it's better than what you imagined. And sometimes it's not, but you always hope for the best. So yeah, again, no budget, always like beg, steal, and borrow, always like, okay, well, creative, resourceful, and yeah, it's I don't know. It's always like, how do you, there's 1,000,001 obstacles, and then you make the film and you're like, okay, so what do I do now? So so there's all that. So that's awesome, and it's congratulations. I haven't seen any of your films, but I'm so looking forward to seeing them. Just getting to meet you guys as filmmakers and hear your stories. It's very cool.
Well, I've seen them all, and they're all fantastic. So yeah, you need to watch them.
I will. Yeah,
they're all good.
I will 100%.
So Kayla, I made a little note about your video, and I put that it's brazen in the best way. Y'all made some choices that are definitely not what you typically think when thinking of Chinese language video. What made you go that route?
Actually, the musician, her sense of humor and style kind of bode well with mine. We both sort of grew up watching South Park, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone were a huge influence on my life, at least. So I think for us, making sure that there's humor and yet some seriousness to it. Yeah, I think I think that's sort of, we wanted that tone to specifically be in there with the sort of sad comedy. And if you know, if you get to know Yi Tang's work, it's also kind of in that vein. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. And if you're looking for Fucking Lonely on the website, it's not up there till tomorrow. We've got a special group of music videos and commercials that we'll be releasing to the public tomorrow evening. And you can find Kayla's project, Fucking Lonely, in that group. And I highly recommend watching it. It's a fun video and a really good, catchy song. So
thank you.
This, what's going on now in the world with COVID, how has that affected your film and your ability to get it out in front of people?
I guess I'll start. I mean, obviously, film festivals being virtual is definitely a thing. Our release party was done in quarantine. You know, it's a classic social distance conundrum. And now people, I mean, a lot of my friends have left New York, including myself. So now we're just kind of all spread all over the place.
I've actually had a, I don't want to say a good experience, but being in Australia and not being able to travel for the foreseeable future to other countries is obviously daunting, because I've submitted my film to so many festivals at the beginning of the year, like before COVID happened. But everything going virtual is actually good. For example, this one, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So being able to virtually attend it is really great, because I can watch all these films that I wouldn't be able to watch. So I think if some things like this stay into the future, then it's great, because it's bringing people from all over the world to different festivals that cater for different tastes. And yeah, so I'm grateful that this has happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not COVID in general.
I think what was kind of tough was that, you know, as the year kind of rolled by, I was kind of reflecting back onto what kind of movie Alvin was, which is, it is about a guy who is basically in isolation in a hospital room. So I was like, maybe this is in poor taste for this year. I didn't predict it, you know, not at all. But at the same time, it kind of coincides in a very hopefully poetic kind of way now.
So with Pioneers in Skirts, we had our big festival premiere October 26th of last year. And my gosh, am I so grateful for it. We had a huge party. We got to watch it in a theater, and it was terrifying seeing your movie up on a big screen. And so I really hope you all get to experience that terror too soon and have all your friends watching the movie with you. But again, the film was made to really impact conversation. And so it was challenging in the beginning, but then like Sophie was saying, it's kind of like a silver lining where people are able to watch the film at home with their families. And then also companies are embracing, you know, having these films a part of something to offer for their employees, and organizations too. They're all going, oh, hey, this Zoom is not so bad. So I think I wonder what it would have been. You know, what would I remember? Does everybody remember like the end of March where our calendars just like disappeared? And I was so upset. I was like, we had so many things happening and ready to travel. And then, and you know, we're making plans again, right? Like, that's like the only way we can kind of survive is like, we just have to kind of make plans and just see what happens and have amazing screenings like this and reach people. It's all about that individual person too. It's so amazing.
I think quarantine actually made us get really crafty with what we had to do with our film. Like, instead of, you know, film festivals were getting canceled left and right, and a bunch of them we weren't getting into. And so we hit this point where I realized I don't know what the next year is going to look like. So if we want to get this film out there and seen by people, we need to come up with a new strategy of how to do that. And so we were able to get distribution for the movie by just compiling lists of like hundreds of distribution companies and just cold emailing them. And I don't know if we would have gotten distribution if we would have gone in a traditional festival route. I mean, also the quarantine did make our film a little bit more relevant, I think. I mean, it's a group of 5 people who are locked in one place, drinking a lot and just, you know, shooting the shit. And so I think that our film became a little bit more relatable because of what has happened with, you know, the coronavirus, and everyone seeing that, like, God, society and our world and how everything is set up is really, it's precarious. It's all very precarious, and things can kind of fall off at a moment's notice, like in March when everything just vanished and the world was completely different. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't think coronavirus was a good thing, but it definitely, it forces you to have a different way of approaching and looking at the work that you have.
Get creative.
Yeah, I was supposed to start my festival experience in March, so I have not seen my movie on a screen in front of an audience. And as an actor, it's so funny, Ashley, because I feel like for me, I'm so terrified. I hate watching myself on screen whenever I'm in a project. And so as a director, I was like, great, like I'm gonna eat my popcorn, see what other people are doing. But it is really bittersweet. I mean, you know, you only get to be a first-time filmmaker once. And I wish, you know, these kinds of Q&As and the discussions make me wish I was with you all with a glass of wine and a microphone and chatting about this and like getting to actually interface with people and grab coffee and hang out and get to know everybody. That's the thing that I feel I've been using the word robbed, but that's like, woe is me. But, you know, I do feel like I'm missing out on something that I was so looking forward to experiencing, just meeting new people and traveling the country with this film. I will say there was kind of the opposite conversation about like, okay, is this film relevant? Is it important right now? You know, is it something that we should be spending our energy on right now when there's so much social unrest and like so much going on in our healthcare, in human health right now? Like, is this the time? And then Betsy DeVos completely deconstructed Title IX this year. So under the mask of coronavirus, and if those of you that don't know, on any side of the political aisle, it's really dangerous for women. So she did that while no one was looking. And now that's become a really big part of my conversation as I go into these Q&As, as I go into this moment. So in that way, that's a little thing for me that I'm like, okay, I feel very galvanized around that issue because it's happening right in front of us.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I keep on getting logged out. My computer shuts down, and then I have to come back. So, hello, I'm back.
Oh, no worries. We appreciate you sticking with us. It's well, that can be definitely included in the list of challenges for this year. That's for sure. So, what do you hope audiences come away with after watching your film or your video?
I guess that we're all fucking lonely, and it's a universal thing, and it's okay to be lonely and to be sad about it, but also get out there, you know?
What about you, Sophie?
I don't know. I feel like there's like every time I make a film, there's so many things I want to do, but the reason I love filmmaking and storytelling is because it renews your enthusiasm for living. It like gives you this perspective of being a bit further away from being a person going, oh, wow, that's what it's like. Wow, it's pretty messed up. So yeah, I suppose I just want a sense of hope. I don't know if that comes across in this film I've made, but in the films I make in the future, I want there to be a strong sense of hope and like, yeah, I can keep on doing this. Yeah.
Kate?
I think primarily I'm hoping that people come away with just an awareness that this issue is still happening in the US, that and maybe an understanding of how nuanced it is and what it actually looks like, but also like Ashley, that there is hope, like there are things we can do. And this is something that we really should all be able to get on board with in terms of ending forced and child marriage. Like, we can do this. Like we can agree on this at least, can't we?
Savannah?
What I think I want people to take away from Apocalypse is that there are different ways to tell a story. You know, it's not always just the traditional 3-act structure, that there's ways that you can delve in and explore character and explore different ways and find different ways to explain theme, character, and story in general. I don't think that it always needs to be a traditional scripted experience. And I think that the more people experiment and the more people look into different ways of storytelling, the more variety and the more cool stories we'll have. And so that's what I think I would want people to take away. Yeah.
Virginia?
Oh, it's a hard one. Well, the story is a look at potential, like a mental illness, but also at perspectives. And there's not like, I hope it opens people's minds up to having an appreciation and understanding for different perspectives. And it sort of questions what is actually reality, what's not, what perspective is right. And in the end, it leaves you with this question of not knowing what was actually in the character's mind and what was reality, what was really going on. So I hope like it's I lived with somebody who had mental illness and was somebody very close to me, and I saw them go through this thing where I almost was wondering like, oh, maybe they have a privileged perspective in the sense that like so anyways, it's like a question of, it's almost like a question of what are the things that you believe to be real? Look at yourself. Is that, what are other perspectives? So yeah, I hope it like opens up something when people watch it. Thanks.
Christiana?
Yeah, I hope that the audience comes away with seeing how empathy and compassion really goes far, and how, that you shouldn't be infringing on someone else's like life and rights, and vice versa, right? So I think that's pretty much the core of Alvin is, let's come away with the fact that there are people who live differently, who have different experiences. Let's not diminish them and let's not ignore them.
Right.
Yeah, I say ditto to that. I mean, I think all of us here, we're trying to inspire our audience to realize that change is possible. You are not alone. We had a very specific goal with Pioneers in Skirts, was to provide actual solutions that we can implement today, and have these conversations to push the needle forward faster, way faster than what's happening right now. And if the film can get one person each viewing going, hey, I should probably change how I look at this, or I should probably not say that anymore. That would be success.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like a macro and a micro to this film. For me, I made it because of all the reasons I said, but also because we don't see stories about survivors that are funny and awkward and weird and unusual and mean, and like that survivors are dynamic, three-dimensional human beings. And sometimes we joke about our sexual assault, and sometimes we talk about it, and sometimes we don't, and sometimes we're forthcoming, and that survivorship doesn't look the same on everyone. And I think we get this kind of after school special thing where we watch these films about sexual assault, primarily young women, primarily young white women, where it's like croony and sad and whiny. And I think that one of the things I wanted to was really to combat that, because it's not true. So we really challenged that idea of what a survivor looks like, what a survivor is, what a survivor sounds and speaks like. And then I think on the and I hope that women and survivors, all survivors, see themselves in that, can recognize themselves in those moments. And then on the macro level, it's, to me, it is about courage in numbers, courage and solidarity. We are stronger as a collective. And I think that is really important right now,
Yes, absolutely. So what's next for all of you, for this film in particular, and then also for you as directors? What's next?
For me right now, I'm developing my first feature film. I just graduated during COVID, so the whole thing just doesn't feel real. And so, yeah, I'm just developing my first feature. And what's next for the film? We are showing at Sound Unseen in Minneapolis and Austin, Texas. And then I believe after that, Venice Shorts Film Festival in California. And hopefully some more. But yeah, I'm just going to be in Wyoming developing my first feature called Leaving Yellowstone. It's about a woman who goes on a winter vacation with her first boyfriend just to find out that he's a murderous psychopath. So it's completely different in tone and everything, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's great. Sophie?
Yeah, I'm the same. I graduated last year, so I'm still kind of floating in this bubble of unknown. But I am developing a feature, but it's very loose at this stage. And yeah, also just throwing Peeps out there and trying to get it into plenty of things. It's screening at the National Film Festival for Talented Youth, which is also online, and that will be at the end of October, I think. So there's that, and then hopefully it'll get into something in Australia so I can actually go to it, which would be nice, hopefully next year. Yeah, and making more low-budget shorts probably as well with my friends. Yeah.
Kate?
Yeah, pretty similar with Knots. We're just continuing to try to get it out there. It's playing in a few more festivals that we know of so far. It'll be at the Liverpool International Film Festival and Jacksonville and Terre de Femmes Film Festival in Berlin, which would be cool to go to, but yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, so continue to get that out. And what's next? Actually, it's really exciting to talk about horror from the female gaze and hear so many people doing that, because that's one of the things I'm super passionate about as well. And my next project is turning a short that I did called The Murder King into a feature psychological horror film from the female gaze.
Very cool. Savannah?
So for Apocalypse A Go-Go, we're working with our distribution company right now to get it up on different streaming platforms globally, which is really exciting. I guess stay tuned on that. But what's next beyond that is a feature that I wrote is being produced out in Los Angeles sometime next year called Local Haunts, which is a Iraqi-esque beach vampire movie, back on the horror thing, and then also writing another feature script that I'm going to be directing in my hometown of New Orleans called Gator Baby, which I'm also very excited about.
Virginia?
Yes, so I am actually going to camera next Tuesday. I've already directed one COVID film, so this will be second one. I'm very grateful. I've been hired as a director, so that's really cool to work on some features. So that's. But then I've got my own projects again. I've got some features that I'm developing, a TV show. We'll see what happens, because you got to have a few eggs in your basket, because they will, maybe one of them will hatch. So we'll see what happens.
Christina?
Yeah, for Alvin, we've got one more film festival to kind of cap our circuit. It's Bleedingham Horror Film Festival here, kind of north of Seattle. And I think after that, we're going to try to see what we're going to do about the release of it, whether we're going to try to find a platform. I'd have to do some research on that. Otherwise, I've been also working on a feature film script. I've had to rewrite it several times now, as the story has changed. But essentially, it's about a Asian woman who immigrates to the United States and faces racism and sexism, and ends up encountering not enough compassion, so she loses her own compassion.
Oh, wow. So quick question about Alvin.
Yes.
What is in those smoothies?
Oh, I think it was like oat milk or almond milk, but actually something that's non-dairy, because our actor TJ is vegan.
Oh, so you got Technicolor vegan smoothies.
Yes.
Very cool.
Well, sounds like, I'm going to go watch Alvin right after this for the milk. Like, what?
Thank you.
No, so Pioneers in Skirts it's going international. We are planning a whole relay to screen the film all over the world. We're getting translations done, and it's so cool. And like we were saying, because we can be online, it's a smoother start. And we are hoping to actually be in Africa in April and May of next year. But of course, everyone's like, we'll see, And the movie's screening in a lot of companies and with a lot of organizations. And we're doing a lot of talking about this topic. And then all that while also developing my next feature, which is going to be a horror. And I guess I will say, this is the first time I've said it out loud. It's a Christmas horror.
Ooh.
So send me all your good Christmas vibes that are scary.
Christmas can be kind of scary on its own, so that's a good.
Yeah, which angle am I going to take? That's the new one.
Yeah.
So Pizza Party we're kind of smack dab in the middle of our run. So we've got in the books like 9 or 10 more festivals that we're going to be heading into in the next couple of weeks. So you'll be able to catch us at Indie Memphis next week, and SCAD and Female Voices Rock. So keep an eye out. We got a lot of cool stuff going on before we close out 2020. And then I will be ready to let it go. I've been told that this is around the time, and I'm feeling it. I'm like, okay. And right now, this is also the first time I've said this out loud. I am currently developing another short with a co-writer that deals with white female complicity during this moment we're in.
Wow. I love that we're getting all the
yeah, I know. I'm like,
all the inside information. That's awesome.
Sorry, I actually also I forgot to say that Between Waves, which I should say, is playing at the LA International Film Festival. And we're starting. This is our world premiere. We're starting to the festival run. So some of the festivals I can't announce yet that we've been invited to, but so yeah, watch out for it.
Right.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you all want to share? specifically with, I was about to say Kate and Ashley, the two of you, if you can share how people can find out next steps, if they want to get involved, if they want to make changes. I know, Kate, you list a couple of websites at the end of your film. If you could tell us what those are, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So unchainedatlast.org is the website for Unchained at Last. It's the organization that Freddie Reese founded and the only organization that is 100% dedicated to forced and child marriage in the US. And they are really leaders. They're on the front lines in terms of working to change the laws state by state and close those loopholes that allow for child marriage. Fun fact, 46 states still allow child marriage. As of today. So that and Tahari Justice Center, their website is tahari.org, and they also do amazing work to address this issue.
And so Pioneers, we have a website called pioneersinskirts.com. Could you have guessed it? And there are so many resources on there for having these conversations, and then ways to bring the movie into your community, into your school, into your company.
I don't think it's affecting it anyways.
Virginia, it's not affecting it. Don't worry.
Can't even see myself.
Anyways, so pioneersinskirts.com. It's the best way to get in touch with us. And then if you haven't watched it yet, go to Eventive. What is it? PDXFF. Do it.
.com
and watch it, because we have to support our film festivals.
Yes. Thank you so much. That was it. Does anybody else have any last thing they want to chime in? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you all so much.
Just thank you guys. Yeah, it's been an honor talking to you women filmmakers. I'm like, yes.
Yes, it's been really
So
cool.
you.
Yeah, just to meet people.
Yes, and we have,
cool. It's nice to meet people.
I don't know the exact percentage, but considerably more than 4% of our films have female directors. So thank you all so much for coming out and talking with me this evening. And thanks to all of you who are watching. Please go to pdxff.com and check out these films. And also, or you can go to Comcast in your voice remote, say Portland Film Festival, and it'll take you and let you see our films that way. Yeah, thank you so much. Don't forget to check out our virtual lobby, also at pdxff.com. And thank you all so much. And congratulations on making some really cool films and the video. It was all, you guys are inspiration. So that's it.
Go watch the milkshake film.
Thank you, everyone.